be found on Channel 8 with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Okay, good evening. As the hour is 6:30 p.m., I will call the Town of Exeter Select Board meeting to order. This evening, we have 3 interviews down in the wheelwright room from 6:30 to 7, so the board will be exiting the Novak room for the wheelwright room for a half hour, at which point we will return for our regular business meeting. Thank you.
For this week's report, Exeter Culinary Craftsman honored. Energy Committee to host EV Expo at the Town Hall this weekend. Art Up Front Street invites the public to attend their new gallery show. A message from the Heritage Commission. Last call for the Beer and Chili Festival. And science experiments coming to town with the spooky Folsom event. For Exeter TV, I'm Bob Glowacki, and this is the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report. Let's get started. Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to get notified about new content. Before our first segment, a huge thanks to Gabe for holding down town communications for me while I was out on vacation. It's great to be back. For our first segment, we attended a special award ceremony hosted by Exeter Fine Crafts, honoring Exeter's culinary craftsmen. Folks gathered from far and wide at Mila by the White Apron in Exeter for an evening to remember. The event was hosted by Exeter Fine Crafts to honor and celebrate Exeter's Italian culinary craftsmen. The event highlighted chefs and craftsmen from Cornicello, Vino e Vivo, Mila, and Czar's Brewery, and awarded them for their work with Italian cuisine. Ward Dillmore from Exeter Fine Crafts introduced the evening alongside host of Ciao Italia, author and regional Italian cooking expert Marianne Esposito. The Consul General of Italy in Boston, Arnaldo Minuti, was there to speak to the global importance of Italian cuisine and how Exeter's very own culinary craftsmen are keeping traditions alive.
So Italian cuisine exemplifies healthy principles, guiding us on a flavorful journey from the Northern Alps to the sun-kissed islands of the south. Each region offers unique culinary treasures.
After the awards were given out, Marianne Esposito presented the Seco School of Technology and its culinary program with a check for $1,000 from her foundation. She also called to the podium one of Exeter's youngest up-and-coming chefs, a student from SST who exemplifies the spirit of culinary craftsmanship.
Because here's a young chef who's going to go far. You know why? Because he has the passion for what he does. And if you don't have the passion, you can't succeed. So good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Congressman Chris Pappas attended the event to help honor Exeter's craftsmen, and he was there to welcome the Italian Consul General to the Live Free or Die state by presenting Mr. Minuti with a flag flown over the U.S. Capitol.
Well, I understand how restaurants are such an important part of the fabric of our communities. They are organizations that not just employ people, but give people a great experience and bring our communities closer together. And so I think that's what tonight was all about, celebrating leaders in the industry, chefs who are putting out incredible experiences for folks here in this part of the state, and also to raise money for a good cause. And I think anytime you can bring people together around food to celebrate culture, tonight it was Italian culture, it's a good time for the community.
After the awards, we spoke with Consul General Minuti, who was pleased that Exeter's Italian culinary scene is representing his country well.
For me, it's a great opportunity to be here. It's amazing to discover that in Exeter you have restaurants that are doing the Italian cuisine. So, and then it's a great pleasure for me to see also that there are these restaurants, but there are a lot of people that are interested to Italy, that loves Italy, and so it's been a great experience to be here. I'm very happy to be here.
The event went over wonderfully. There was so much spirit of enthusiasm, a lot of pride in Exeter, which we wanted to foster because we are now a destination. We have great restaurants, and we happen to choose 4 of the Italian restaurants, but in the future, we want to feature other restaurants as well. But tonight's theme was Italy, and we are happy to present Cornicello, Vino e Vivo, Mila by the White Apron, and of course, Henry and his Chow Sicilia beer from the Czar's Brewery in Exeter. So we felt it was lots of fun, and we were really happy to see all of our supporters there.
Full coverage of the event will be available on Exeter TV soon. For more information about Exeter Fine Crafts and future events like this, visit exeterfinecrafts.com. The Energy Committee will once again host their EV Expo this weekend. Here's more on the electrifying event. Interested in learning more about electric vehicles? The Energy Committee is hosting its annual EV Expo on Sunday, September 29th from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at Exeter Town Hall. This free, fun, and family-friendly event offers you an opportunity to learn more about the benefits, use, and ownership of electric vehicles. Multiple electrical vehicles will be on display, and several EV dealers will be offering free test drives of their vehicles. You can find more information about the event or register to show your own EV by visiting the town website. Art Up Front Street is hosting an exciting new art show and invites the public to attend. We stopped by the gallery to learn more about this free art show.
Art Up Front Street, one of Exeter's local art galleries, is showcasing a new free gallery this weekend, Saturday, September 28th at 120 Front Street. Patina in Gold, created by Anne-Marie Kenny and Amanda Kidd Kessler, will explore the different styles of textile and ceramic artistry displayed right in Art Up Front Street's gallery. To tell you more, we spoke to Anne-Marie Kenny about how the project came to be.
In this particular show, I met someone on the Seacoast here who's the executive director at the New Hampshire Art Association, and we got to know each other and we love each other's materials and art. So we decided about a year and a half ago to plan this exhibit. The beauty and the handwork that we have in our work is really complementary. So we're very excited about the show. We hope people will want to see it. It's 2 years in the making, the handwork of this show. So the kinds of things you'll see here is I came up with this hand stitching process and I stitch with wire. So I use some perforated metal. I use a lot of wire cloth, which is also called mesh. I patina copper, so I make this beautiful greenish old-looking surface to copper. I've got some computer parts here. So every layer has been stitched by hand, and I know that it's considered an art quilt. And quilters and textile people actually enjoy seeing my work because it's a very different view of a textile piece. And then Amanda's work is hand-built ceramics, which is finely glazed, has the gold leaf, beautiful, elegant pieces. And these are the biggest installations she's ever done. So she's young. She's really on the Seacoast art scene. Her piece, she has at least 200 pieces here. I think when you see each of our artwork, you know it's ours. We feel like we have a certain look about our work that you can recognize because we've been at it for quite a while.
This Saturday, September 28th, will be an open reception from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can speak with the artists and get a deeper look into what makes their work unique. But that's not the only time to take a look. From Wednesday to Saturday, between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you can visit the gallery at your leisure. Finally, there will be an artist talk on Sunday, October 6th from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. All mentioned times and events are completely open to the public, free, and welcoming of any who are interested in looking into this exhibit. If your interest has been piqued, you can visit their website at artupfrontstreet.com/exhibits.
Up next, we met up with the chair of the Heritage Commission to learn more about their work.
My name is Swasey, and I'm the chair of the Heritage Commission for the town of Exeter. The Heritage Commission is an advisory citizens commission charged with researching, documenting, and preserving the historical assets of the town, town-wide. We accomplish our goals by obtaining grants to survey our historical neighborhoods and documenting the housing stock in those neighborhoods. We also work with nonprofits like the Exeter Historical Society to promote our heritage and history. We also work with the Planning Board. The Planning Board forwards to us our subcommittee on demolition review applications that they receive to demolish properties that are 50 years or older. They look to us for our research on the historical relevance of those properties and to make a recommendation to approve or deny the permit. We have an application before us on 112 Front Street, a barn and a building built approximately 1819. It is zoned commercial. It is not in a historic district, and it is in disrepair. And we're in the process of garnering information on the historic value of that property. One aspect of that property that's very interesting is that the author of this book, Exeter, New Hampshire, the history from 1888 to 1988, Nancy Carnegie Merrill lived on that property. To obtain more information on the historical significance of the property, 112 Front Street, we're holding a public hearing at the town offices October 1st at 5:30. And we encourage anybody with any information on the property to attend.
The Heritage Commission has several openings. If you're interested in joining, you can find all of the information on the town website, exeternh.gov. Tickets are still available for the annual Powder Keg Beer and Chili Festival. Here's the last reminder to check out the event.
Will you be bored and looking for something to do on October 5th, 2024? Well, then we think it's best for you to come on down to
the Beer and Chili Festival!
A day for local food and beer brought together by the Exeter Area Chamber of Commerce and Parks and Rec. But don't let me tell you what's going on. Here's what Greg and David from Parks and Rec have to say.
How's it going, everyone? The best time of year is back, the annual Powder Keg Beer and Chili Festival, Saturday, October 5th. It is our 12th annual. And Greg, what can we expect this year?
We have great craft beers and great chili for all those that love a little bit of spice.
We're gonna have some great music. Maddie and the Penders are gonna be rocking it again this year, just like last year. We're gonna have fantastic chili, some fantastic vendors. We're gonna have a sea of good friends and good vibes everywhere you look.
But it's not only for adults. We have a kids zone. But not only do we have a kids zone, we have artisans that will be selling anything from t-shirts to knickknacks. Come on down and enjoy a family fun day here at the Powder Keg.
VIP admissions start at 12 p.m., while general admissions begin at 1 p.m. in Swasey Parkway by the music stand. Kids are welcome too, with a chili-only option and activities designed just for them. The whole family can come and enjoy the activities. If you're ready to have a festival of fun, flavor, and fun again, then you can visit their website at www.powderkegbeerfest.com and come down on October 5th to get your filling in whichever way you choose.
And for our last segment, Gabe was asked to test out his psychic abilities ahead of the Exeter Lit Fest Spooky Folsom event. He met up with Don Jelly and Dr. Vankwoman in an undisclosed location for testing. Here's how it went.
Good afternoon. Today we'll be testing your psychic abilities using this negative reinforcement electric shock machine. Please hold the metal bars firmly. This is the same test we will be administering to guests at the Spooky Folsom event.
I'm so excited. I can feel the energy already.
This is ridiculous. There's no such thing as psychic energy.
Are you ready, Dawn? Focus on the card.
I'm thinking a circle. Yes, yeah, definitely a circle.
Wow, that's correct.
What? She basically just guessed. That's not any proof.
Guess, please. I'm practically a medium over here.
Your turn, Gabe. Let's see if your skepticism stands up to the supernatural. What's on this card?
Fine. It's a triangle.
Sorry, Gabe.
What? What do you mean?
You're just not in tune, Gabe.
Oh my god!
Back to Dawn then. What's on this card?
Right, I think it's a date for an event. Friday, October the 4th. Oh, it's coming up soon.
Partnered with the Window
Once again, good evening, Exeter, and welcome to our Town of Exeter Select Board meeting of September 30th, 2024. I'd like to say good evening to my colleagues on the board, respective town staff, those in attendance, and certainly those watching at home. I'd like to start by introducing the board. To my right, Selectman Dan Chartrand. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Our Vice Chair, Selectwoman Molly Cowan. Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
To my left, our Clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Selectwoman Nancy Belanger. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Our Town Manager, Mr. Russ Dean. Good evening.
Good evening.
And offline, we have our Assistant Town Manager, Melissa Roy, and our Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel. Good evening. And my name is Nico Papakostendis. For the last half hour, we were down in the wheelwright room, 3 interviews for various boards and committees. We'll start our regular business meeting at this time, and I'll open up to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to come up with any comment. We do ask that if your comment is relative to an agenda item, that you wait until that agenda item comes up. But with that, I'll pause for public comment. And if you could just go up to one of the mics and state your name and address for the record, please.
Chair, my name is Karishma Mansour. I live in 6 Windermere in Exeter.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair, for having me over here, allowing me to speak. So I wanted to talk a little bit about voter registration, voter turnout, and absentee ballot today. So we, of course, have a wonderful culture of public engagement in New Hampshire, and I actually looked up the stats, and New Hampshire tends to be about top 10 in this as a state in voter turnout. So we have very good numbers, especially in the presidential general elections. So about anywhere from 60% to 70%, which is great. But at the same time, the town, we also know that New Hampshire does not have any early voting. There's only one day that we can vote. And if you can register on the day of the voting, so that's great. Mm-hmm. But to encourage voters, to remind them to register to vote, to come to vote, and also if they're going to be unable to vote, to send in an absentee ballot, we just have to educate our citizens. So as far as I know, that the Secretary of State's office does not do anything at the town level, so that's why I came to the Select Board today. So there are 3 ways that I would like, and I hope that the Select Board would consider. So one would be voter registration information. So just reminding people to register to vote. And it's a very simple process in New Hampshire. But you have to come to the city clerk or the town clerk. You cannot, voter registration drives are very difficult given our lots of checks and balances about registration. So during the actual election day, there are 2 electric billboards that are set up around the town. One is at the corner of Linden and Front Street, and the other one, I'm not sure where exactly it's set up.
Portsmouth Ave.
Portsmouth Ave and
Holland Way.
Okay, so that's wonderful, and it's a great way to remind people to go to vote. But it shows up on that very day, and for a lot of people, they may be very much aware when that election day is coming up and prepare ahead of time, but many people are not necessarily as aware or as interested or able to modify their work schedule. So one thing I was going to suggest was higher visibility, reminding people to register, to send in their absentee ballots, as well as remind people to come to vote on election day. So for registration, I'm not sure what the best way to do it, and that's why it's just more of a suggestion to the Select Board, but I understand that, the town manager and the Select Board have to work together. So perhaps putting up those electronic billboards ahead of time, maybe flashing some public service message. Don't forget to register, go to your town clerk's office, etc. Just a simple public service message, nonpartisan, nothing specific, maybe in different locations where you think there will be more traffic and more visibility. So this could be, say, once a month throughout the year. There's no reason to necessarily do it around Election Day. The second would be reminding people to submit their absentee ballot or to pick up a form or complete a form for an absentee ballot. Because, again, absentee ballots have to be in 5 p.m. the day before. It cannot just be postmarked. it has to be actually in the hands of the town clerk by 5 p.m. The day before elections. So again, we're very strict. So if we can remind people about how to mail their absentee ballots, et cetera. And then the last would be, of course, to vote. But I made these posters, but just as suggestions. So something, you can either do it at the electronic boards, or you can just put this up. Sorry.
Thank you.
Large, just reminding people about the requirements and a registration. They have to be approved by the Secretary of State because it has to have the right amount of blue and the right amount of red, because you don't want to seem partisan. But this particular poster, I did share it with the Secretary of State's office, and they did not find a problem with this particular poster. So, for example, this could be used by the town as a supplement to the electronic billboards. Another option is this one. The only difference between these two is that, of course, you're showing the requirements. Thank you. But you're also putting in some information about what exactly constitutes how you can prove your citizenship, et cetera. Just some additional information if you wanted to put this up. These can be put on a sandwich board and left in front of the town hall, for example, or in a visibility. So thank you. This one is a cheap one. Someone's child made it. We were not going to look at that. This one has these two are the same, yes. I wanted to, so this is done. So anyway, so those are some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Do you have one more?
This one, Open Democracy gave it to me.
Oh, okay. No information, just vote.
So any questions or any suggestions?
Well, I'd like to, first of all, we appreciate you coming for public comment, and that's what public comment is for, public comment. We usually don't deliberate, but I wanted to respond to a couple of things. You've come to the right place for public comment, and you've come to the right audience in terms of, 5 elected local officials that advocate for voter turnout and folks registering to vote. But there are other players involved that I just want to run through real quickly.
Yes.
In terms of the trailers, the two trailers that you spoke of, one is right down the street from the polls, and the other one, as I said, is on Portsmouth and Holland Way. Those are the two trailers that the town owns. Every election is run and overseen by the town moderator. And even though the select board is there in our official role of being there for the voting machines and tallying up the election results, and we have to be there by statute, we're serving under the town moderator. Okay, they run the election. So it's actually the town moderator that communicates with Public Works as to when the trailers are brought out and where they're located. So for that, I would suggest reaching out to Kate Miller, who is our town moderator, with your ideas, because she's the one that actually calls the shots on the where and the when.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And she's very easy to get a hold of, and I know she'd love to talk with you. But ultimately, that's the town moderator's decision. And then regarding the registering to vote, there are the supervisors of the checklist have certain dates, and I believe, Mr. Dean, there are certain timelines that they have to follow.
Yes, by law.
So I would ask you to reach out to Vicki Navoychik, who is the supervisor of the checklist, because she has all of the dates that the supervisors are open.
So sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Wait, anyone can walk into when the town offices are open and submit a registration form.
But there is a deadline in advance.
Yes.
Because they have to prepare the voter rolls.
Correct, and that's why.
After you miss that deadline, you are allowed to register
on the
day of the election.
Correct.
Yeah, but
Correct.
there's a gap of time.
Correct.
there.
But in addition to that, Karishma, the supervisors hold open meetings, and they're usually held at night, so that folks that work can come in. So that's just another opportunity for folks. So reaching out to her. And then, Mr. Dean, in terms of advertising these dates and advertising absentee ballot and the process and the dates. If we're not doing it already, I know we have that on the website, but maybe Exeter TV with their YouTube and their Facebook presence, we can at least take charge of that.
Social media?
Mhm.
Wonderful. Yes, please.
Yes, we can do more with that, sure.
Okay, so, but with those electronic billboards, it has to go through the town
Town
moderator.
moderator is the one that makes the call on those, correct?
And we're also limited in the number of words we can put on it because of the size of the boards. Like, we couldn't put that whole message on electronic board.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, correct.
Yeah,
It's-
and I think
Right.
typically they're out there at least a week before, if I'm not mistaken. They're-
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
If it's not a week, it's 5 days.
It's, yeah.
At those two locations?
Those two locations.
And then a countdown or something, a reminder? Okay. For some reason, I didn't see that, sorry.
With voting and the date
Yes.
and the location.
The location and the time that the polls are open. And I know that Exeter TV and the Exeter newsletter that our Exeter TV crew does, they periodically, put that out for folks to reminding them of the date, the time, the location, and all of that. But I think we can certainly add to that with the absentee ballot procedure and how they can go about doing that.
Sounds good.
And
Would that
then-
help? Would that be helpful?
Absolutely. So I don't have to contact Exeter TV then? The select board will be?
Mr.
helping?
Dean will do that for us, yeah.
We'll do it.
So then, but you want me to directly contact the town moderator as well as the?
I think if you want to have a discussion about the trailers, it's the town moderator's call. So we can't make that decision.
And then having just a sandwich board in front of the town hall, is that also then the manager's discretion?
Mr. Dean, what are the rules on the sandwich board?
The rules on the sandwich board would be that we don't allow political signs to be placed on public property. So we'd have to determine whether we would go through the supervisor of the checklist to actually get that determination before we would go any further with any kind of a sign on public property.
Can I ask Karishma to work through you in your office to facilitate that discussion with
the supervisors?
Yeah.
Sure, we can do that, and the moderator.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
comment. Karishma, nice to see you.
Can I actually add just one thing?
Sure.
This is my bread and butter, and I am so excited that you brought this forward to talk about this. Because I think it's important to remember, you talked about our voter turnout numbers, which is really exciting, but it really minimizes the impact that our structural, that we face as a state with structural, access to voting. And so I want to remind folks that we are 50th. There are 50 states. We are 50th in the country for cost of voting, which means you're not automatically registered to vote if you show up at the DMV with all the qualifying identifying information. You are not automatically registered to vote once you prove citizenship, once you are sworn in as a citizen. You do not have any opportunity to register to vote online. There's no early voting like you talked about. And so it's really, really important to show up on election day. And then the other thing, while the clerks, town clerks, and their deputized election administration officials are the only ones who can conduct voter registration drives. They are free to do it wherever and whenever they want. So they could show up at the high school and talk to students who are qualified to vote, who will be 18 by election day, who can sign up to vote. And so I think it's really imperative that we encourage our election officials to do that as much as they can, because I think that there is a need. They show up, and that is really great. But I also think, as we are a democracy, and we are only as strong as the people who show up to vote. So I think it's incredible what you're doing. Thank you so much for elevating this. I'm really glad to be able to talk about it. I think we will do it as much as we can, and then we should, come up with outreach and strategies for even more people to become enfranchised and use their right to vote. So thank you so much for elevating this.
And I'll add to what you said is I graduated in 1980 and I registered to vote at our high school. There was the outreach then.
Back then, right?
Yeah.
So at the moment, high school registration in New Hampshire is very low. 12% of 18-year-olds are registered to vote. It is actually one of the lowest in the country among 18-year-olds. And in response, can I just make a quick response to Vice Chair's comment? So Vice Chair Cowan brought up a really good point. A registration drive was organized last spring semester. It was a lot of work for the students because they had to bring in the select supervisors of the checklist from 6 different towns or 5 different towns, whatever Exeter High School represents. And it was a lot of work for the supervisors of the checklist to take a chunk of their day off to go there. They had, I think, at the end 50 or 60, I can't remember the number exactly, which was fine, and that's wonderful, but there was also exposure. Maybe other people found out about it and then went on their own. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work for the students, for the faculty, administrators, as well as the supervisors to do this high school registration on site. So it's better for us somehow, but somehow figure out how to advertise it to bring them to the
communication.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Krishna.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment this evening?
Hi, Keith Whitehouse, 61 West Side Drive. I'm here to ask your help in getting some of these public spots open that are town property. Very specifically, I was hoping to have a dance this winter at the Rains Barn. So I'd like to see you all there high-stepping with me.
A dance?
That's right.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah. So we need to make that happen by helping. The guy that's down there doing it, Stephen, doing a great job. It's amazing. He's getting close. He's had some help with some money that Kristen was able to obtain and get a lot of the siding done. Now we need to get the artifacts up on top of the stalls, clear the dance floor, and we need some help. So I'd like to get that information out there for volunteers, for maybe get some town staff down there to, there's a couple lights that need to be fixed, maybe get the electrician. You know, I'm not really sure who to talk to exactly on this, so I thought I'd start here, and let's get that place open and start using it. It's awesome, you know, really is awesome. It's a kind of unique thing. So I'm here to ask for your help in any way possible, and let's dance. Thank you.
I'm game. Sounds like fun.
So I think there's a contract right now, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the Conservation Commission is probably
Which
the first
Mr. Whitehouse serves on.
Exactly.
Yep.
I get that. I'm asking for you guys to do what we can all do to communicate to any volunteers, town staff, to get it done soon, so it doesn't continue to just slowly get done, but let's get done.
Yep.
There's a difference. It's a fundamental difference, right? Let's get out there and get it done. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I appreciate your comment. Mr. Dean, you and I can speak about that, and one of us will get back to you. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you,
Have a
Keith.
good night. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll move forward with our agenda this evening. I'd ask for approval of the regular Select Board meeting minutes of September 16th, 2024. I would first ask if there are any amendments or revisions.
There's a typo. At the very end, it should be 5-0 and it says 5-8. Keystrokes. So I would move to approve these minutes as amended.
Second?
There is a motion and a second to approve the amended Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of September 16, 2024. Any additional conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We have a resignation to consider this evening from Jane McCaffrey, who unfortunately is needing to step down from the Robinson Board of Trustees. I'd like to first thank Jane for her many years of service as a Robinson trustee. I would entertain a motion then to accept her resignation.
So moved with thanks.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we thank Jane McCaffrey for her service. We were able to interview Nick Drinker this evening, who is interested in filling Jane's position on the Board of Trustees, which expires in March of 2025. The board had an extensive interview downstairs with Mr. Drinker, and if there is no discussion, I would entertain a motion to appoint Nick Drinker to the Robinson Board of Trustees vacancy with an expiration date of March 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Drinker.
Thank you all.
Yes. We accept a resignation and we get to fill it in the same night. Thank you.
Okay, jumping into our discussion items. The first item was the Eagle Scout, James Haney, who came before the board back in August with a proposal for a flag box. We asked him to come back to talk with us once he had the design, and we were going to talk more about location. Mr. Dean, were we expecting Mr. Haney?
We were. I'm not sure why he is not with us.
Okay. I think the board, or at least some members of the board, had some specific questions. So if we could reach out to the Scouts and see if there's an alternate date that Mr. Haney, or at least a representative from the Eagle Scouts, could join us.
Okay. We did get a confirmation email, but
understand.
Apparently things didn't work out.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate for me to ask the few questions that I have so that they're aware of the questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one of the questions I have is, once this box is placed, who would own it? Would the Scouts own it, or would the town own it with it being sitting on town property? And they had talked about putting together a regular schedule to check for the flags to dispose of. And if it goes unused for any period of time, I mean, how long would we leave it out there? Replacement, if it starts to get rusty and faded and things like that. So we touched on them when he was here before, but we didn't really get answers on them, so.
Okay.
If we could.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And did the board have any questions on the actual design of the box, or any comments?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah, we did at the time, but that was when it was a USPS shape,
Yep.
and this is much simpler and more direct in what it's for.
Were there any other specific questions? I was going to say, if that's the only piece of information that we need, perhaps Mr. Dean's office could communicate with Mr. Haney and/or the Scouts, get the information rather than have him come in.
Yeah, that's what I
And
wanted.
we could take it up under permits and approvals
Perfect.
at whatever meeting follows Mr. Dean.
I just want to make sure if it needs to be moved,
Yeah.
or if it just, I don't want it to get abandoned.
Is the board comfortable with that?
I'd like to see this happen. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Rather than having him come back in.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Dean, can you follow up with him, and providing he can get that information, we can put this under permits and approvals for October 15th?
Will do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Our next discussion item, we have the pleasure of having the Swasey Park trustees with us this evening for a joint meeting. We have all three trustees and Mr. Cronin, the Public Works Director. So, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to you to call your meeting to order.
Thank you. I will call the meeting to order for the Swasey Parkway trustees at 7:24 p.m. I'll introduce the trustees. To my left, the vice chair is Mr. Darius Thompson. To my right, Dave Short, and I am Dwayne Staples, current chairperson.
Well, good evening. Thank you for your time, and it's nice to see the three of you again. Just to give a little bit of background to the board, I think we had talked about having the trustees come back sometime in July or August to talk about the next steps with the roadway and the warrant article. And as I'm the select board rep to the trustees, we talked at, I think, the July meeting, and we still weren't sure if we had anything viable or concrete that we wanted to talk, and not wanting to waste folks' time, we decided to wait until September. I think it was the last week in August, Mr. Cronin and Jay Perkins, the highway superintendent, and assistant town manager Roy contacted me and asked me to come down to the Parkway because they had a design and some ideas that they wanted to show me. And of course, Mr. Cronin, being in his first year here with the town of Exeter, I was excited for a very fresh pair of eyes and a fresh pair of ears. And I was very impressed with what he and Mr. Perkins showed us, and I thought it meant the spirit of the warrant article. I thought it meant the spirit of what a lot of folks were looking for. But still, we needed to do a little bit of work. So I contacted the chair of the Swasey Park Trustees, Mr. Staples, and we met, I think, the week after Labor Day, and Mr. Cronin was good enough to walk Mr. Staples through what his idea was, and Mr. Staples was interested enough to want to share it with the trustees. So at their September 18th meeting, it was posted as a site walk, and the 3 trustees were there with some members of the public, Mr. Cronin and I, and they walked Mr. Cronin walked the trustees through this plan that's temporary in nature, and the trustees felt confident enough that we were ready to come together in a joint meeting to discuss this further, hear from any members of the public, but also have Mr. Cronin have the opportunity, to share with the select board what the plan is. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Staples, I'll turn it over to Mr. Cronin, and then we can have our conversation.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you mentioned, we looked at some short-term temporary solutions for opening up the Parkway to vehicle traffic. Obviously, the existing width of the roadway makes that challenging, in particular, reversing direction within the current layout. So the option that we're proposing is to construct a temporary turnaround utilizing the existing maintenance driveway and curb cut, and constructing a new jug handle, essentially turnaround, that would meet that, allowing people to come in off of the Newfield Road side of the Parkway, travel down, turn around at the turnaround, and head back in the opposite direction. Vehicles really need about a 25-foot radius to safely turn around, so we're able to fit that within this proposed design. What we're proposing is a second curb cut just north of the existing curb cut, constructing a driveway to the existing driveway that would meet it, which would allow people to basically take a right-hand turn off the Parkway, circle back around and 180 degrees and head back the other way. We're also proposing 3 ADA accessible parking spots that would be off of the turnaround, to allow not only for drop-off, but for accessible vehicles to park there and unload pedestrians onto the Parkway. With this proposal, we are also looking to add parking on the riverside of the road. It would be just between the entrance gate and north of the turnaround to allow enough space for the vehicles to turn around and provide enough width for parking. We are also proposing 3 gates, one at the entrance, one at the midpoint just beyond the turnaround, and one at the Water Street entrance. These gates serve 2 purposes. First off, to create a barrier between vehicles and pedestrians, and to allow the ability to shut down the Parkway in the event of an emergency or during an event. Under normal conditions, the gate on the Newfields roadside would stay open, and the gate at the midpoint and Water Street would stay closed, with that segment of the road being open to pedestrian traffic. We would restrict the Parkway to passenger vehicles only. Reason being is because, again, the turnaround can only accommodate passenger vehicles because of the width. It would still allow us to accommodate larger vehicles such as police and fire apparatus and delivery vehicles for events. We would just have to coordinate which end of the Parkway they came in and how they would be accessing through the gates. We would post a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit, and yeah, I think that is it. on our end. We would have to add some additional signage, obviously, to delineate the parking spaces, the parking areas, and just the general rules of the road.
Okay. And during events, the gate would be closed anyway, and there wouldn't be any traffic as per
Correct.
events that were there before this, so that doesn't change.
Yep. So under this option, we're proposing a swing-style gate, manually operated. We would install it set in approximately 48 inches from the edge of the curb to allow for pedestrians and bicyclists to navigate the parkway, and for our equipment, our snowplow equipment in particular, to make it the entirety of the parkway without having to open gates and create additional conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if I may, since the board is hearing this for the first time and the trustees have had the presentation, I'd like to give the select board an opportunity to ask Mr. Cronin questions and then turn it over to the trustees, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Great. Let's start down here.
I have just a few questions. So I'm not seeing additional parking on your map. Is that because you haven't decided where that would go yet?
So it would be on the riverside. We haven't figured out exactly how many spaces we can accommodate. There was some discussion with the trustees about the narrow width of the parkway and allowing some breaks in those parking spaces in case there was, congestion or vehicle conflicts, giving people a space to essentially pull off and allow another vehicle to pass. It is a fairly narrow roadway, about 24 feet wide, so, that is going to create some conflicts if people aren't parked close enough to the curb. So we just want to make sure we leave some allowances to let people through.
Mr. Can I follow?
Of
Okay.
course. Mhm.
So I'm going to ask what I think is probably an obvious answer from you, but is there a reason why you limited it to 3 where you did? The 3 accessible? Is it for space purposes and?
Yeah, for space purposes, we were trying to stay, true to the look of the existing parkway as much as possible. So we felt anything more than that would be somewhat intrusive on the area. But we did want to be able to allow, people with accessible needs to get as far down the parkway as possible and essentially as close to the pavilion as possible.
Okay, and then just one more.
Of course.
Keys. Well, the gates will be locked.
That's a decision for.
Okay. So I'll hold that just to throw it out there, keys, and if they're locked, who would have the keys?
Yeah, it could be locked. We could make those accommodations, but that's not a decision
Okay,
for us.
thank you. That was it, thanks.
Okay. And I'd like to add, too, that the minimal green space that is going to be taken was not optimal green space to begin with. And in fact, this could be an improvement in terms of the drainage, correct?
Yeah, there are some drainage issues in that particular area. It does get fairly soft. We are going to have to excavate out a pretty good amount of material to establish a base. But because of the location of the turnaround in that area, we are going to be able to solve some other drainage issues, in particular in the driveway area. So it doesn't look like with this proposal we're going to need to install drainage infrastructure. We're going to be able to do all of it with grading. But if there was a need down the road, we could tie it into the existing drainage network.
I like this.
Selectwoman Gilman?
Yes, I think this is a great improvement from what we've seen in previous sort of layouts. And having the dedicated accessible parking spaces is great. My question is, how close are those to a curb cut on the riverside where the walkway is?
So that's one thing that we are going to talk about with our contractors, adding an additional curb cut off of that parking with a 5-foot wide, essentially, sidewalk tying it into the pedestrian side of the parkway.
Yep.
So that would prevent them from having to basically go into the traveled way past the gate. It would essentially drop them on the other side of the gate in the parkway.
And then my other question is there any anticipated change to the intersection at the end of the Parkway and Newfields Road?
Nothing on the Newfields Road side, but we're certainly open to suggestions. The Water Street side, if this were to become permanent down the road, we would suggest that, there's some kind of visual cue to separate the existing roadway from that entrance. Whether that be pavers or, a painted lane or a cross-hatching or something, just because it is somewhat inviting right now because it's a sea of asphalt down there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Selectman Cowan?
No other questions. I think you, Mr. Chair, asked my question about the soggy area. So glad that we can both deal with this with grading, and this could potentially at least help alleviate some of that. And just thank you very much for your eyes, fresh eyes and fresh perspective, and thanks to the trustees for being here tonight.
Selectman Chartrand?
All my questions have been asked. I, too, want to thank you, and I want to thank you three gentlemen. Thank you.
Before we turn it over to the trustees for comment and questions, could you also tell the board how this will tie into the Coastal Resiliency Grant that we just received?
Yep. So we are currently working on the timeline for the Coastal Resiliency Grant. That's been submitted to DES. That grant is going to look at some of the flooding issues that we're having on Swasey right now. So we're not entirely sure what's going to come out of that study. We felt that a temporary option out here would give us more of an opportunity to figure out, to see how this works and to see how that might, be implemented into a more permanent solution out there to deal with some of those flooding problems. It's going to take us probably the better part of a year to complete that grant work. We are going to be looking for input from both the select board and the trustees as part of that process. So they'll have an opportunity to weigh in and give feedback on not only all the issues, but what they'd like to see for potential solutions.
And not to be Columbo, but one more thing. As your memo indicated, a great portion of this can be paid for within the existing road aid that we have and coming in well under what we anticipated might cost. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I mean, we've started to solicit quotes, and you have a construction estimate before you based on this current concept. So that includes the gates, the construction of the turnaround, the signage, the pavement markings, the accessible spaces. So everything that's been discussed tonight is in that estimate. Anything beyond that, we would have to solicit additional quotes for.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Chair.
I'm going to open it up to the other members first.
Okay.
Mr. Thompson?
No questions at this time.
Dave?
I think we kind of covered it all at our meeting last time.
Yeah. I was asked, and I will just bring this forward, Mark, I got a call from Mark. He was asking about possibly putting the handicap spaces in the road. I tried to explain to him that probably wouldn't work because of the turnaround issue. But in thinking about this, is there a way to add maybe one more handicap spot in front of the gate? I don't know if that's, we have 3, but maybe just add another one, possibly.
So the ADA requirements are that you have a loading and unloading area adjacent to the vehicle. So what we're proposing with the 3 spots would be an 8-foot wide spot, 8-foot loading area, another 8-foot spot, another 8-foot loading area, and an 8-foot spot. So, to do that at the entrance, we can look into it, but it may require us to move some additional curbing down there to widen out the road.
Yeah, I'm just asking, if we could have maybe, we have 3, if we could look at possibly adding a 4th, I think that would be great. But I also just want to say that, and I really tried to have a great conversation with Mark, which I did. This area, because I took care of the Parkway for a lot of years, this area is always wet. And it doesn't take up a lot of green space, but what space it does take up is that wet area that the contractor spends a lot of time pulling his mower out because it always looks dry, but it isn't always dry. So this really does solve more than just one issue on this. And Mr. Cronin did a great job of presenting this, and I want to thank you and Jay and everybody else that was involved with this, because this as a temporary fix, and I think we can move forward and build with this.
I did have one question.
Yeah.
I think on the site wall, we talked about the potential of adding like a rain garden in that little area there to do something that will help alleviate the drain, so if that could be incorporated, that would be wonderful. If it's too expensive, understood, but it would be an improvement.
We can look into that option. It is something that would probably have to be engineered because there are specific plantings and drainage requirements for it. But with that direction, we can explore that.
In the future? I mean, is that
we did talk
something-
about pervious pavers out there. The concern was with the existing groundwater table and the proximity to the river, that there would be the potential that they would not be effective. They would not only clog, but allow water in as opposed to out.
So just when the design becomes permanent, maybe, and the report's back, to look at the rain garden part?
And that would be a great thing to put into the grant.
Yeah, we covered a lot of stuff out there, and I was a big advocate for the pervious pavement, and didn't think that about the clogging from the bottom when it floods. So no, Mr. Cronin really did a great job of answering all those questions, believe me. So any other questions from the trustees?
No.
Steve, how soon do you think we could get moving on this realistically?
If you approve it tonight, we can authorize our contractor to move forward. We're nearing the end of the construction season, so we'd like to get them started, authorizing them to move forward as quickly as possible so that we can hopefully get this done prior to the middle of November.
So providing we move that this evening, and being appreciative if the contractor could move quickly, can he move not so quickly so that the Chili Fest could happen Saturday?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this has already been put out for quote?
It has been put out for quote, yeah. We have contacted Bell and Flynn, they're our paving contractor, so it would be using the rates.
You don't need to say anymore, they're the best.
We have solicited quotes, obviously, for gates as well. I don't know the exact turnaround time on that, but, there was some discussion about trying to get those in as soon as possible and try to get rid of the sawhorses that are there now.
One question regarding the contract. Do you have guarantees? Is it a fixed price? Is it locked in?
Yep.
And there's a contingency coverage if anything happens?
Yep, so we built some contingency into the estimate that we provided, so, there's always the unknown. We haven't done any borings out there or any subsurface investigations, so a lot of this is just going on, institutional knowledge and information that we've gathered from the trustees. So, it doesn't seem too complex in terms of, grading and drainage, so I don't anticipate too many unknowns.
Would this project fall under the November 15th deadline of not?
I think it's work outside. The work that's happening outside the right of way would not. So
okay,
we could proceed with that. There's limited work that would have to happen in the roadway, and we would just do that first so that we could continue through the rest of the favorable weather.
So, can I just, it's not a question, but I want to thank the Swasey trustees and the working together to come up with a solution. I wasn't on the site walk, but you were, Mr. Chair, and just the ideas and the possibilities and just working together in such a positive way. Thank you. It's much appreciated.
Anybody else? I'd just like to say, too, this warrant article passed several years ago, and we vowed to work very closely together between the board and the trustees, and I'm proud of the work that we've done, because we made a commitment together that we were going to work together, we were going to communicate, and you can't make everybody happy, but our goal was to try to do the best possible project that made sense for the most number of folks. And I think that our patience in that regard paid off. Additionally, as you said, Mr. Chair, it's actually going to bring improvements to a portion of the park that was not in great shape. And last but not least, it will help with the Coastal Resiliency Grant, which addresses some of the things that Mr. Thompson brought up at one of the previous collaborative meetings. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and it's been a pleasure working with the three of you, and I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship. So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the whole select board. Yeah, we're finally moving forward with some items here, and I look forward to see what the grant and the resiliency project can do for down there.
and I guess I'd be remiss, too, if I didn't say that this is a temporary plan. And so we will be excited to hear from folks, both who like this or maybe have some constructive feedback or suggestions, because certainly I think that's the goal. If we could make it better, then certainly that's what we want to do. All right.
Exciting.
Then if there are no other questions or comments, then I would entertain a motion to authorize the Public Works Director to begin work on the Swasey Parkway turnaround and further authorize $32,102.08 to be expended out of the road aid to cover the construction cost, and to further authorize the town manager or their designee to sign any appropriate paperwork.
So moved.
I have one question, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Can we just round that up to like 32,150 or something like that?
I would be happy to.
Do you need us to withdraw our
No, I think, if I could just amend the amount in that motion to $35,000? Sorry. Okay. So I think we had a motion
And Molly second.
and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, trustees.
Thank you. I don't think we have anything else, do we?
No, motion to adjourn.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So we adjourn at 7:48.
That's not quite your quickest meeting.
Not quite, but I'm still doing pretty well.
Yes.
Thank you. David?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin.
Yes,
And please extend our thanks to Jay, too, who I know was instrumental in this. I believe Jay got these pictures for us, didn't he?
He did.
Dwayne, I thought, when you said Mark, you mean Mark Damsel, right?
Correct.
Yeah, tell him thanks for still paying attention, and he's on it, so.
Dave.
He's still very involved.
I'm sure he is. Thank you.
He keeps us straight.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
Really. That was
Handshakes for
good. Thank
everybody.
you.
There we go. Bye, Dave. Thank you.
It's better. You're right. There we go. Thank you.
So I started saying to Steve, these pictures are courtesy of Jay Perkins, who I believe captured them with a drone.
He did.
Did he really?
And there may be a story behind that. Well, wait, he can tell us.
Yeah.
Okay. In our last meeting, during the town manager's report, Mr. Dean spoke of some possible additional funding for the public library, and we mentioned that there was going to be a meeting held later that week, and in fact, 2 days later, there was a meeting held at the library. In attendance, Mr. Dean, Ms. Roy, Corey Stevens, our finance director, the chair of the library trustees, Kathy Corson, and Hope Gordino and I were in attendance, and I think we met for about an hour and got to hear some of the concerns that the library may had. We took in their information and indicated that we would take it back to town manager's office and go through everything and get back to them. So I'm going to pause on any other comment, Mr. Stevens, and let you speak to the memo that you wrote to the board.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction there. I guess I would start by just saying, my memo is fairly detailed as to the events and how they laid out. Would you all like to just ask me some questions, or would you like me to run through sort of at a high level what's in the memo?
I think if you could run through a high level for folks at home that may not have seen the memo, that would be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yep, appreciate it. So as Mr. Chair said, the meeting was to discuss some additional financial need that the library had identified around a retaining wall project that took place in the latter part of FY23, for which they were seeking some shared funding from the town. I think a little bit of background and some context will help you understand the reason for the conversations and what led to the library's position. In 2023, I attended some training on a multitude of things, but one of the topics was on budgeting. And the result of that workshop led me to do some research on budget surpluses and turnbacks and how they apply and how we're supposed to apply them. We all know that at the end of the year, if the general fund has a surplus, it gets turned back to fund balance, and that's one way that we build a fund balance and use it for other purposes. The question was whether that also pertained to the library. And my research led me to conclude that it did. I went out and sought a couple of legal opinions that both corroborated each other and confirmed what I thought. I had included the town manager on those correspondences, so he was aware. He took that information in, I believe, in September of last year to the library director, and just let her know that, I guess, put her on notice that there was a possibility that we were considering not turning back surpluses going forward if indeed there was a surplus at the library in FY23, which indeed there was. There was a $70,000 budgetary surplus in the library's bottom line at the end of 2023, which we kept. So that's sort of the background that sort of sets the stage for fast forwarding to this summer, where a couple of events occurred. One is in July, my office had identified that given current rates of spending on wages, the library was kind of looking like they were heading to be over on their budget lines. So I contacted the library, met with the assistant director, just to sort of make sure I was on the right page. I mean, there was obviously, she has lots of levers that she can pull to make sure our budget comes in line, but I wanted to make sure I was on the right path there. So we went over the analysis, and then at the conclusion, she was going to take back the information to the library director and work out a solution. The second item that occurred pertained to the rock wall. The library director reached out to Mr. Dean and asked for a meeting. During the meeting, I guess they discussed the cost of the wall, which was high, and the fact that the library could use some assistance. It was putting some strain on the library finances, as I understood it, probably in light of the fact that we did not turn back their surplus at the end of last year. So that led to our meeting on September 18th, at which time we had two topics of discussion. One was the wall. The library gave a nice explanation as to the complexity of the wall, what led into the cost, and their need to ask for assistance from us. And then we also discussed their wage budgets, where they stood, and I was told at the time that they were working on a solution to that. At the end of the meeting, board chair, indicated that he would take our conversations back to the full board for discussion. Subsequent to our meeting on the 18th, we received two forms of correspondence from the library. One, last week, the library came to my office with a check to cover the estimated overage that they see or we see in their wage lines. And the second was a correspondence from the library chair, trustee chair, indicating that they were no longer seeking assistance from the town on the rock wall, and no other assistance beyond that. So at that point, we are concluding here that both matters are resolved, and we don't see, and I don't believe the library sees needing to come to the town for additional funds in FY24.
And no disruption to library service.
That was the indication in the correspondence from the chair, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that was the number one concern that we had at the library on the 18th, was that, we were trying to be understanding if there was, any assistance to consider. It was going to be to keep the library open during their normal hours, also to commit to payroll to the hardworking staff over there, and to ensure that our library was going to remain open, particularly through the holidays. So,
thank you.
Are there any other questions from Mr. Stevens? Mr. Dean, have we since notified the library in writing about our intentions under RSA 32:7?
Yes.
Okay.
We've done that.
Okay. And then if there's anything further, if you could just keep the board notified?
I will.
Okay.
And thank you for the memo, Mr. Stevens.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Melissa, for the work you put into this as well. Mr. Dean, before I turn this over to you, Mr. Cronin, are you here for the budget, or are you here for the approval?
For the budget.
Okay, because I was going to jump to the approval if that's what you were waiting for. Okay. Mr. Dean?
All right, there is a PowerPoint presentation. If we can get that set up, that would be great. So, I think it's behind the Zoom window.
Russ,
Oh, Gabe, thanks. I got you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gabe.
Who wants it?
Russ, would it be easier if you stood up at the podium, or?
No, I think actually I can sit here and do this.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, the FY25 preliminary budget, it's budget time. And just to get us going in for that, oh, it's not.
You're good.
All right, thank you, Gabe.
Is that floating to anybody else, or is something happening to me?
It's the air
Gabe, don't go far.
It's the air conditioning.
No, it's not. Is it not? Is it too far away?
It's not, maybe not.
Melissa is going to test. There we go. Teamwork. Always the best way.
You know what? While we're doing this,
there's the. I can sit here. It's fine. No, not a problem. I'll just sit here. It's fine.
Yeah, it's missing.
Yeah, that's all right. You just give me the look, Russ, and I'll hit the button.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
So FY25 budget notes, where we start is normally where we would generally start with wages. The wages are the FY25 reclassification implementation for non-union personnel per the Keegan report. Non-union wages are forecast in the budget to increase with a 3% step and a 2% COLA adjustment. Then the police, fire, and SEIU public works contracts are all being negotiated as part of the FY25 town warrant. On the benefit side, health insurance, we projected health insurance to increase 10%. FY24 was an increase of 10%, so we've kept that in line with prior year. On expenses, just looking at some significant expenses that we have in the budget this year, blue bags, $42,000 increase, paving, $150,000, and solid waste collection, $112,180, and we'll get into talking about that as we go through the budget. The general fund has 2 new positions. The human resources director is a full-time position, and that has to do with splitting the assistant town manager duties off from human resources, which is a conversation we've been having. And then the senior coordinator position, and that is a part-time position, and that's shared between the shared funding between the town, the hospital, and the Parks and Rec revolving fund is how that's being proposed.
Russ, do you know when you're going to get the health quote?
The health quote?
From the health trust?
It should be right around October 8th.
Great, thank you.
October 8th. So the total general fund preliminary budget is $23,887,679. The general fund budget is a 4.49% increase over FY24, and that equates to $1,026,817. The town operating budget, as we know, funds all town departments, and our three largest departments are police, fire, and DPW. They make up approximately 70% of the general fund operating budget. The town's current tax rate is $6.23 a thousand. The new rate will be set in November of 2024. And the town operations on the tax rate represent approximately 22.6% of the total tax rate of $26.78 per thousand. So as you can see, we're even under a quarter of the total tax rate that people pay. The water and sewer funds have their own budget, and the rates are set by the Select Board with a recommendation from the Water Sewer Advisory Committee. And then the other note on the overview is that 2024, as we all know, is a property revaluation year, so we'll have new values shortly. The FY25 budget continues to focus on recruitment and retention. We are working to fill positions as we speak, and we certainly have had our share of vacancies, and they continue to persist in different departments. Wage and benefit costs continue to rise. We've also got the implementation of the Keegan report, the management report that was given to the board back in January of 2024 that we've been working diligently on. This is the final year of ARPA spending as well. And then solid waste disposal costs are rising, as I mentioned, and then paving is restored to $700,000 in the general fund budget for FY25. These are our general government departments. You can see there are quite a few of them: Select Board, Town Manager, Human Resources, Transportation, Legal, IT, Media Communications, Trustees of Trust Funds, Town Moderator, Town Clerk, Elections and Registration. The budget is up 6.71% over FY24. The major changes there are in the town manager's budget. The allocation of the assistant town manager position has now been moved over fully to the town manager's budget, so the percent increases corresponds directly with that. In human resources, there's a reduction of $6,289 in that budget, 3.04%. That includes funding the full-time human resources position. Then transportation and legal are the same as FY24. The information technology budget increase of 9.7% includes moving the public safety contract for computer communications over to IT to manage. We felt that that was a better use of IT's time rather than having the chiefs have to oversee the the technology part of that contract. Then media communications is an increase of 5.66% over FY24. That is mainly wages and benefits. Trustees of trust funds is a level budget at $891. Town moderator is a decrease of $678 due to fewer elections in FY25. And then the town clerk budget is $406,669. That's actually a decrease of $53,036 or 11.54% under FY24, and that's mainly due to some staff turnover that we've had in the town clerk's office in the past year with employees leaving and being replaced by new employees. The elections registration budget in general government is $21,233, and that's due to having one election in FY25 compared to 4 in FY24. And that total budget reduction is 14.28% under FY24. Any questions on general government?
I have one. It's on page 8 of your narrative.
Yeah.
It talks about email archiving, that it was decreased by 5,850. We're not going to stop archiving our emails, right?
No, we're not going to stop archiving
Because it does. It just says that we're going to remove that from the
But
plan.
we
and
are-
It doesn't say we have another
We are taking out,
way.
Assistant Town Manager can speak to
Thank
that.
you.
We are stopping to archive our emails, Russ.
Smarsh. We've dropped Smarsh, which is a social media.
So it has two different parts to it. Corey, we are archiving our social media, and my understanding was dropping the email archiving
Okay.
due to recommendations from legal, if I remember correctly.
Really? Okay.
So we'll look back into that, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
91A, I'm surprised that we can do that. But, okay, conversation.
Okay.
What I do recall is a healthy discussion was had around the topic.
Okay.
So there'll be a background to it.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that.
I apologize. All right, the finance budget. This includes the finance, treasurer, tax collection, and assessing functions. The total budget is $801,949. That's an increase of 4.01% over FY24. Again, most of these increases are due to wage and benefit increases. You'll see in finance, there's a reduction in audit fees, a reduction in contracted services for GASB 7475 reporting, which was a one-time expense, then an increase in bank fees of $1,000. And also, we've put in for an update to our bond rating in FY25, and that's $4,500. That's being requested for that. Treasurer budget's a small budget. It's a stipend paid to the treasurer, and it's a decrease of $147 or 1.52% under FY24. Then the tax collection budget is increase of $10,297 or 8.5%. Those are mainly due to wage increases where we had a new hire come into the department. We had someone leave and has been replaced at a higher rate. And then expense increases, bank fees $580, education training $1,000, postage $2,000, tax billing services $2,170. Assessing, that's also a decreased budget. And the MRI contract we have for contract assessing is up 4.5%. We do have wage increases in that budget, but we also have a reduction in the revaluation line item of $10,000. That's bringing that budget down under 0%. Questions on finance? Okay. So planning, building, economic development, and land use boards, total budget, $788,348. That's an increase of 2.94%. The planning budget, again, mainly wages and benefits. There is a small general expense increase in that budget as well. So the total budget is up 5.68%. Economic development is up 3.36% over FY24. That's mainly due to wage increases. General expenses are decreased by 10.2%, but that's a very small budget, as you see there. Inspections and code, what I'd highlight there are there's a decrease in the budget of 0.13%, and that's mainly due to the fact we took the $15,000 that we have in contracted services for an electrical inspector that we may get on staff, and we reduced that down to $5,000 after we had some discussion amongst the executive team about that in terms of the overall budget and the bottom line. The land use board's budgets are fairly stable. They're small budgets, and you can see most of them are actually decreased, or a couple of them are decreased, and a couple of them are increased by nominal amounts. Then the renewable energy expense budget, we've had that in the budget several years now at $1, and that's stayed the same.
Sorry, I do have a question. On conservation, Rains Barn.
We'll see that later, the alarm.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm more about getting that done because of the back and forth the last few years with the contract and then the pricing, and Kristen's working so hard to get funding, and we weren't able to succeed, so we were going to see if we can get that done, the construction part.
Yeah, the last time I checked in on that, the contractor was working on the project.
Yeah, there's a new contractor, I believe, and they
There
came
is.
in at a much smaller amount,
Right.
and we're
Oh,
able
good.
to finish it up, so.
Good.
It should be on the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to police. The police budget is an increase of 3.34% over FY24. Total personnel in the department, 29 full-time, 2 part-time. There are 3 main divisions: administration, staff, and patrol. And the budget changes, again, like most departments, are wages and benefits. Full-time wage increases of 3.6% change there. Benefits increases of $52,353. Those are due to plan changes and retirement assessment increases. So that has gone up in the police area, so that has caused a budget increase. Increases in wage categories include shift differential, overtime increase, coverage overtime, and K-9 overtime. So, and then on the expense side for police, there's decreases in community relations, computer maintenance, which we talked about was moved to the IT budget. And expense increases include dry cleaning, education and training, uniforms. Overall general expenses are decreased by $16,760. Sorry, questions on police?
I just have one on the overtime, as the budget process always asks about our overtime spending. Is that mostly because it's pretty static on the overtime, just the pay increase made it 10,000?
Baked into the overtime?
Yeah.
Yes. Then there's some other iterations that we've done working with the police department on modifying their overtime lines as well. So you'll see some of that as the budget goes forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So fire EMS and emergency management, that budget is $4,206,447. That's a decrease right now. Now, again, we haven't had our health insurance rating yet, so when we get that, we build it back into the budget. So it's a working number, like all of these actually are at this point. This is down 0.68%, and you can see the budget funds 33 FTEs, and the shifts that we run with the shift strength of 7 in each shift. And we have ranks including captains and lieutenants. The budget's broken out into 3 divisions. The health part of the shared services is located in the fire department as well. The budget changes here in fire are mainly, again, wages and benefits. Wage increases of $40,397 in full-time wages, and then another $5,193 in part-time wages for the emergency management director part-time position at 12 months. If you recall, last year that was put in at 8 months. And then total wage increases are 2.4%. The benefits decrease is due to plan changes. General expenses decreased by $51,483, and I'll touch on the computer contract that was moved to the IT budget, the fire share of it, but also that we worked with the fire chief to make a one-time reduction in protective equipment of $33,082. Because the PFAS gear was approved through ARPA funding by the board, that's meant to be a 1-year reduction. Questions on fire and EMS? Okay. Thank you. Dispatch, total budget is a decrease, $10,559 or 2.21%. And then the health increase is 7.96% over FY24. In dispatch, the budget changes, our wages, again, are up, but benefits have actually decreased by almost $30,000. That's to account, again, for plan changes. The health budget, the increase is 5.1% for wages, and then the increase for taxes and benefits is 3%. The health budget, 25 expense budget is increased by about $6,200, and that includes education and training for the health officer. We reimburse that position for education and training as she works toward her degree. Thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions on dispatch or health?
Nope, all set, thanks.
Okay. All right, Public Works General Fund. The total FY25 budget is $4,915,951. That's an increase of 5.96% over FY24. The FY25, that's a typo, excuse me, Engineering, Administration, Engineering budget, increase of $15,112 or 2.63%. Again, wage increases there are offset by benefit decreases, and then overall general expenses decreased by $280 or 1.2%. In highway, you'll see that that budget is up $146,574, 7.32%. And again, mainly that's due to the expense or the highway capital outlay budget, which is decreased in sidewalks and curbing, but it is elevated in the paving general fund allocation for FY25. We've increased that back to $700,000 from $550,000, so it's an increase of $150,000.
Would you mind just quickly saying why it's going back to the 700,000? Did we have?
We had 700,000. Yeah, we had 700,000 in spending that we allocated in FY24, but 150 came from another bucket.
Yeah.
Came from road aid instead.
So we were still using that amount?
We were still
I just want
applying
people
that
at home
amount.
to know we're not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And I believe the BRC recognized that that this year would go back to the 700.
Yes, yep,
Right.
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Snow removal. So for this budget, again, this is one we talked over with the executive team, finance director, assistant town manager, and myself, and we felt that a reasonable budget move would be to decrease this budget by $25,185 and actually allocate more money to the snow and ice deficit fund to cover any forecasted deficits. So later in the budget, you'll see that we're proposing from fund balance to fund the snow and ice deficit fund at $75,000 instead of $50,000. So we're making a change there. Then the solid waste budget, again, large increase, definitely a budget driver, 10.89% over the FY24 budget. And this is an increase of $112,180 or 9.4% adjustment to the town solid waste contract. And part-time wages are increased by 5.1%. And then the blue bag adjustment of $42,000, partially recovered by blue bag sales revenues. So, but definitely a budget increase there of order of magnitude considerable. And then streetlights, we're actually seeing a savings there, which is a decrease of $22,000 or 13.02%, and that is now represented by the fact that we now own our streetlights and the pay down to Unitil is complete. Then stormwater is a level fund budget with no increase from FY24. Okay, we'll move on to maintenance garage. Total budget here is a 4.82% increase over FY24. The general maintenance budget is up 7.58%. Mainly that is due to wage increases of 3.6%, and then contracted services, we've actually amended that number to reflect more accurately the cost of cleaning town buildings. That's, again, a deliberation we've been having, discussing resources and allocating resources, but that will be a budget focal point for FY25. Then the fire safety budget, we've increased by $9,000 to reflect DOL-related costs that have come with implementing safety guidelines and implementation. Town buildings budget is up $17,021 or 5.61%. And the FY25 budget includes all those categories that you see there, including electricity and natural gas. So we're up again in those budgets. We've attributed more of that budget to building maintenance, more to the building maintenance aspect of that budget for the coming year. Then maintenance projects, we're leaving level funded at $100,000. And the garage budget is actually only up 0.7% over FY24. The full-time wages are up 1%. The benefits are down negative 0.1%, and the general expenses are decreased by 1.7%. So fairly flat budget there. Questions about DBW?
We're good.
All right, moving on. Welfare and Human Services, total budget is up 13.86% over FY24. Two major reasons for that. One is that the Welfare and Human Services budget includes the administrator that was funded for 8 months last year, or 9 months last year, and now is funded for a full year. And then the direct relief expenses have been increased by $25,600 to meet demand, particularly in the area of direct rent relief. So that's a big area that we've seen an uptick in recent years in welfare human services funding. Then the Human Service Agency funding, the committee has actually already reviewed the applications for this year, and they are coming back with a recommendation that is 0.42%, 0.42% decrease over FY24 in the area of human services funding. So they'll have their report during the budget process.
Okay.
I do have a question. You brought up the direct rent relief. Is that a line item that's growing because it's more efficient to keep people where they're living as opposed to having them turned out and then having to help them?
Yeah, absolutely. That and the fact that it's more beneficial to keep them where they are in terms of their living situation rather than utilizing hotels as well.
Right.
So there's that aspect to it.
So helping them earlier, before something bad happens, saves us money.
Yes, absolutely.
Less disruptive to the family.
Yes, absolutely.
And the children, too.
And there's also a piece of legislation that went through that if we are sent somebody from another town or somebody from another town comes to us because they need something right away and they're here, we can bill the town they come from, so the cost to us isn't direct. It's been known to occur that people get sent to Exeter.
Okay, we're on to Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation is a 12.28% increase over FY24. The recreation budget, you can see there, it's 11.95% increase. That is due to three things mainly. One is the full-time wages increase of 5.1%. Second is the senior coordinator position being allocated to the general fund, $14,921. And then benefits are increased by $21,936 to account for plan changes. Then in the parks budget, it's up 12.86%. Again, the major driver there is health plan change in the parks benefits budget that is driving that increase. Okay. Other culture and recreation, these are our mainstay events that we have in town. Christmas lights, holiday parade, and the like with summer concerts. This increase is $2,000 that has been requested. The requested increase of $2,000 is for the fireworks display in Parks and Rec. So it's gone from $8,000 to $10,000, just inflation on fireworks. Public library budget, the total budget request here is $1,259,054. That's an increase of $73,365 or 6.19% over FY24. I will say that the library trustees have actually sent over a budget that's a little bit less than this. They've sent one over that's 5% increase. So we will make that change and add that to the budget.
And is there any supporting documentation as to what's leading the increase?
We have not seen any as of yet.
Okay, thanks.
As far as that 5%.
It's the wage line, and then it's the
Wages, benefits, and public services.
Okay.
Yeah.
for a detail on the library services.
Yep.
And she said she would send it after they had their trustees meeting.
Okay. So for those that didn't hear, the 5% increase is due to wages and also library services, and that's something that came out of our conversation on September 18th, is to get a more itemized list of what that line item for library service consists of.
Right, for public services, yes.
Thank you.
Debt service and capital, 25 budget is 66, there's a decrease actually of $66,348 altogether. between the two budgets. One is there's a decrease in the debt service budget of $120,699, or 5.83%. And the major projects in the debt service budget, you can see there, the library renovation addition, Court Street culvert, solar array, 10 Hampton Road and Epping Road water tank make up the lion's share of the debt service principal and interest budget. The major changes are the Great Dam removal bond has been retired, the Rec Park development design bond is retired, and the total interest decrease of debt service is $76,446 due to maturing notes on projects. So that's why that is down. And then the vehicle leases budget is increased by $47,822. That was due to the approval of a new sidewalk tractor that we're now building into the lease purchase schedule. On benefits and taxes, the increase is 57.36%. A little misleading because this is where we budget our health insurance reserve. You can see that it also includes the health buyout program that we have with the town for $185,154, and then the health, life, and dental insurance reserves are $277,190. This budget also includes townwide unemployment, or a good chunk of the town's unemployment insurance, workers' comp insurance, and property liability insurance. And then the health, life, and dental will be reallocated to department budgets once the final increases are known from Health Trust. Okay?
Yep.
So now we're on to bond articles and other articles. So we're looking at 4 bond articles for this year. One is Pickpocket Dam removal for $2.1 million. Obviously, that's been the subject of extensive discussions by the board. The Linden Street Bridge repair from Public Works is coming in at $1,257,900. So we'll be reviewing that for potential bond article. The new fuel island, the DPW complex, $575,000, and then the street sweeper to be as part of the Great Bay nitrogen reduction program for $395,000 through an SRF loan.
Can I ask a question on the Pickpocket Dam? Are we still going to try to apply for the NOAA grant?
That's our intent, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
So then we have warrant articles for the CIP and other. You can see I've listed the warrant articles and also listed the funding sources that go with them. Front Pine and Linden, the drainage replacement plus the sewer replacements, that totals $250,000. That will allow us to get deeper into the roundabout project and get that done. And that is funding is to come from, we're suggesting excess bond proceeds from the Salem Street project be used for that, and also sewer funds. So that's why you see those two at the bottom of the slide. The rest are transfer station improvements for $100,000, the Parks Improvement Fund for $100,000, the ADA Capital Reserve Fund another $25,000, the Sportsman's Club cleanup, which we haven't had a lot of discussion about yet, but is out there, is $45,000 being looked at for that. The Sester Centennial Fund that Selectwoman Gilman and I worked on for $5,000. And then the executive team is putting forward a concept for a succession planning fund for $25,000, which would allocate funds to do just that, would help us with recruitment and retention and succession planning going forward. We'll have more details about that as we go forward.
I have a question. If the threshold is changed from 25,000 to 75,000, what?
And other.
So we're okay to leave those $25,000? There's 4 of them, right? 2, 3, 4? I thought.
Yes.
I thought the threshold. Didn't you tell us the threshold changed to 75,000?
It did, but that just means that they're not in the CIP. It doesn't mean that we couldn't suggest they be warrant articles. Those
Okay.
are two separate things.
Okay. Well, because it's under CIP and they're in here, so that's why I was curious as to why. Okay.
So.
Got it. Thank you.
Then warrant articles for lease purchase proposals. These came through the CIP. The replacement of dump truck 33, that's a 2008. That's $160,000. Replacing the sidewalk tractor number 58. I believe that's a 1991 vintage sidewalk tractor, $225,000. And then the Recreation Department's request for an ADA accessible van, $120,000. Funding sources for that would be a combination of general fund taxation and revolving funds. So the total payment impacts year one would be $109,250 for these three items. Then fund balance, we're looking at fund balance to fund these particular articles. One is the replacement of Utility 1, the fire vehicle that has been on the docket for replacement for some years now. Also the public EV charging facility from the CIP, the styrofoam recycling unit from the CIP, the Rains Barn fire alarm unit, not from the CIP, but set aside as a separate article at this point. Snow and ice deficit fund, customary article, and sick leave trust, customary article. So the total there is $459,170. That would come from fund balance. And we've been trying to keep about $500,000 as the spending level from fund balance every year, so we make sure that we keep our fund balance stable as we move forward, and we're able to fund some things through it as well.
So how many warrant articles in total are you proposing?
I don't have the number yet, but it's probably north of 20, I would say, at this point. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Corey.
20 on the nose.
Yeah.
So general fund appropriations, the preliminary budget number you see there, and the total preliminary spending with the warrant articles included from non-fund balance gives you a total number of $24,296,929, and that is a 5.7% increase over the prior year, over FY24. And then the estimated tax impact is 37 cents per thousand of assessed value on that. And that is the general fund. Questions?
Any questions before water and sewer?
It's a good start.
Thank you. All right, going through water, the water fund, that's a decrease. The budget is actually down 8.98% under FY24 numbers, mainly due to capital outlay decreases. And we are turning back from we're in the midst of a contract now with clarifier replacement and filter replacement, but that is dropped. It was a front-loaded contract. So we're now out into the less expensive years. The administration, as you can see there, is up 7.28%. The billing's up 1.82%. Distribution is down 0.97%. Treatment is up 10.84%. Debt service is down 12.96% due to a couple of debt retirements that we've had. And then capital outlay is down 64.09%. Sewer fund, a little bit different story. The sewer fund's up 8.34% over FY24. The administration budget is similar to water. It's up 7.33%. The billing budget, similar to water, up 1.85%. And the collection budget is up 3.75%. Treatment is up 3.19%. Debt service is up 11.51%, and that is due to the siphons payment coming online with the debt service budget. And then the capital outlay budget is a small increase of $18,030 or 10.55% over the 24 budget.
It's not a budget-related item, but where are we with the siphons? Are they up and running yet?
They're up and running.
Oh, since August, yeah.
Sweet.
You had no ribbon cutting ceremony?
Then bond issues for water sewer funds, so we'll talk about this. The groundwater development from the water fund is $6.8 million, and that project is proceeding on schedule. The Clemson Pond cleaning and inspection project, that's from the CIP. We're proposing that be funded from excess bond proceeds from the Lagoon Sludge Project. The wastewater treatment facility effluent flume repair, that needs to be done. That's $245,000, and that's also to be funded from excess bond proceeds from the Lagoon Sludge Project. And then the Front Linden Pine Sewer and Drainage Replacement Project, which we mentioned before, the $150,000 sewer funds would be paid for using excess bond proceeds from Salem Street Utilities Project. Then we have our 3 revolving funds, the Cable Access TV Fund, $233,300 in proposed spending, the EMS Fund, $793,600 in projected revenue, and then the Rec Revolving Fund, $771,000 in projected revenue. And as we know, all revolving funds are non-appropriated, so that means they do not go to town meeting, but go through the board for approval during the budget process. And that is the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Dean, for that thorough presentation. You're welcome. Forward to that, I want to thank and recognize the executive team of Corey Stevens, Melissa Roy, and Rustine, and working hard with the department heads over the last couple of months. And also recognize the department heads who put an awful lot of work into their respective departments and their budgets to try to keep our increase.
So this is truly a team effort, and I want to thank Corey and Melissa as well as Laura Zagopoulos over in the finance department, who's done a tremendous job with the backdrop of the budget and the numbers. So thank you.
We'll look forward to this presentation Wednesday night at the Budget Recommendations Committee.
Round 2.
And if you could take care of that typo tomorrow.
I will.
Thank you.
Will do.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Dean? Okay. Jumping into regular business, there are no tax abatements, credits, or exemptions this evening, and since Mr. Cronin has been waiting patiently, we'll start with his approval. Mr. Cronin. Good night, Nick. Congratulations.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you very much. So each year, we work with Rockingham Planning Commission to manage a household hazardous waste event for several communities in Rockingham County. Typically, this contract is based on unit prices per waste stream, which means there's a lot of variability depending on what we actually collect during the event. So there's no easy way, an accurate way for us to project on a year-to-year basis what our costs could be. It all really depends on what shows up during any given event. So to try to give some more budget certainty to all the surrounding communities and Exeter, Rockingham Planning Commission negotiated a fixed per vehicle price with Tredebi, and along with that, a $5,500 per event setup fee. We would cap the number of vehicles at 400 vehicles per year, again, to give us some certainty and to allow us to collect revenue sooner. Typically, what happens is we have the event, and then we have to get all the reporting back and then invoice each community based on those totals. So knowing the fixed fee going into the event, we can turn that invoicing around a lot quicker, collect the revenue sooner, and get it back into to our coffers. So with that, we're asking you to approve a 2-year contract with Tredebi in the amount of $76,243.45 for the Exeter area household hazardous waste collection program. The reason we chose a 2-year contract is because it will align with our solid waste and recycling contract renewal in 27, when we can take sort of a deeper look at how we fund this program moving forward.
I like that. That makes sense. Any questions for Mr. Cronin?
No, I think the changes that are being made as far as the cost to the residents is makes more of an incentive to carpool, to get all your hazardous waste in 5 households and split the cost. And that leaves less cars, and it helps out in a couple different ways.
It does.
Been very successful, though.
Yes.
Extremely,
it has. It is a great asset to the region. It benefits us in a lot of ways, not just the responsible disposal of waste, but we can take credit for it in our MS4 permit and some of the other environmental things that we're required to do. So.
And the date is October 19th?
October 19th, yes.
Yes, so apologies to the public who might have been watching the planning board meeting the other night. I think we said the 12th, the wrong weekend, so it is
October 19th.
Yes, thank you.
I knew that. I saw you taking your calendar out.
As of today, we have currently 158 people registered. We had a total of 388 in 2023, so there are plenty of time slots available. The earliest time slot from 8 to 8:30 is sold out at this point, but the event is through noon, so if you're interested, get out there and register.
And how can folks register?
Online through, I believe we have a link on our website and on Rockingham Planning Commission.
Great, thank you.
The time slot part really works out well too, doesn't it?
Much more manageable for us.
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve a 2-year contract with Trudebi Environmental Services LLC in the amount of $76,243.45 for the Exeter Area Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program, and to further authorize the town manager or their designee to sign the associated contract documents.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one other approval to consider this evening. This is a continuation of our conversation at our last meeting, September 16th, on the permitted, thanks again, Steve. Bye, Corey.
Good night, Corey.
Pleasant Street parking, multiple permits, multiple vehicles for one permit. And Mr. Dean, there were some questions that you were going to get answered, so.
Yeah, I'm going to take another swing at this and see if this one comes out better.
I hope you hit it out of the park.
Thanks. So there are 8 parking spaces right now on Pleasant Street that are available to be permitted. There are 34 spaces available in the municipal lot and Townhouse Common that are used for winter parking outside of Pleasant Street. And this, essentially, what was happening is that people were coming in and getting in line and then taking out multiple people would be getting permits. So they'd take 2, for example, they would come in and get 2 permits, 2 people would get 2 permits and take up 2 spots. So the question was asked by staff, and it was run by police and run by fire and DPW, should families be allowed more than 1 permit? And the outcome of that conversation was that they felt that permits should be 1 per household. So that's where this form comes from, is basically they come in a 1 per household format, and basically so 1 person from a household can come in, get a permit, and have that permit register 3 different vehicles, and then this is the actual permit that's in the packet that would be put in the car. That is the car that corresponds to one of the 3, in this instance, one of the 3 registrations.
So now I understand the reason this has been
Yes.
brought before us.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So that's the reason.
I didn't realize that the same
thought it was
household could get more than 1.
I thought it was just a formatting problem, but yeah.
So we have
Right.
instances where, as I understand it in the conversation, that we've had instances where people are away on weekends. The husband might be gone, the wife is there, the wife may be gone, the husband's there. There may be a son or a daughter in the household or other person living within the household, and this covers all of that type of a situation. So under a single permit, so it's still tied to a single vehicle. The permit itself can't be in multiple vehicles, so it wouldn't be in multiple vehicles. It would only be in the 1 vehicle.
So my only question about this is,
Does it apply to same-sex couples? I'm just kidding.
you just totally threw me off. We have no
partnerships in there.
enforcement. So at this point, until we figure out enforcement, wouldn't it be easier, I guess, just to say only 1 per household? Was that considered?
The issue is that most households have more than 1 vehicle.
Oh, no, I understand that, but it started out with 1 household could get more than 1 of the permits, and it would limit the amount of other households that could get 1.
Right.
That's where my question comes from. Was that?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of it.
No, I just want to,
Enforcement wasn't discussed other than what we
well, no, we
currently
don't
do.
have it, yes,
Right.
so.
we don't have any enforcement other than the emergency bans and so forth.
Yeah, I was just curious if, until we figure out what we want to do about enforcement, if it was just, I mean, that, anyone could use it anyway, right? Because right now they have a sticker. So now they're going to have a placard, correct?
Right.
So stickers can't be like taken out of a car and put into someone else's car.
Right, non-transferable.
Right. So that was my only question about this. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I go back to Selectman Chartran. What was it you said, that you would approve this until it doesn't work?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right.
The only thing that I would add to this is under whoever signs it, or somewhere on here, put their phone number so that if they need to be contacted.
Oh, that's a good idea.
During a snow emergency, they don't have to go.
Well, applicant information phone, is that?
Well, they're two different.
No, you're right. I hear your point.
Phone number on the permit itself?
Yeah, because when we have a snow emergency, somebody may not know that.
Okay, we can add that.
And it'd just be faster to contact them directly than to go through whatever office.
So are you saying to add the phone
for whoever the applicant?
For each plate number?
No, for whoever's the applicant.
So there's the phone, but
But that's the old application.
no, I thought this was the new one.
It's got 3 plate numbers. I assume it's the new one.
Well, the new one has
Russ, is the application in our packet the new one or the old one?
That is the new application.
Yeah.
And there's also the permit itself. So that's what you have in your packet.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So would that satisfy, or if I took it, now I thought you were saying it for each vehicle, would you want?
No, I thought that this and the other one were an old application and a new application.
I think this
so-
is the one to approve, correct,
All right.
Russ?
Yes.
Okay.
So just add the phone number to the actual permit, I think is what Selectwoman Gilman is driving at. It's on the application, but it's not on the permit itself.
Right.
Do we need to approve this?
We need a motion to, I would entertain a motion to approve, I just lost my words. I would entertain a motion to approve the updated winter parking permit application for Pleasant Street for the 2024-2025 winter season and moving forward.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Dean, before we take a vote, if you could just make sure that, as Selectwoman Gilman brought up, that the phone numbers are on the actual permits.
Will do.
Okay. Motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
You went too quick for me. I wasn't sure, but that's fine. I'm going to abstain. How's that?
Okay.
Okay? Because I'm not really happy.
I apologize. I thought I heard two.
No, I was
two
still
ayes.
deliberating over this one, but okay, thank you.
So, Joanne, that passes, as I said, 4-0 and 1 abstention. Thank you, Selectman Rollinger. All right, Mr. Dean, the town manager's report, please.
Actually, there's a grant approval in the packet as well. This is a highway safety grant from the police department
Didn't see that.
for $17,225.46.
And where was that hidden?
I think it's in the middle.
That is for speed enforcement and DUI enforcement and distracted driving
There's more,
enforcement.
but that's the essentials.
Okay. No, I grouped this in with all the other supporting documentation for the DPW request. Thank you, Selectman Chartran.
You're welcome.
And what are you looking for, Mr. Dean?
Just a motion to accept the grant and authorize the town manager to sign the documents.
And just for the sake of time, where's the amount for the grant?
It is section 1.8. It's called grant limitation, $17,225.46. and it's from the New Hampshire Department of Safety.
I would entertain a motion to accept the Highway Safety Grant from the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Office of Highway Safety, in the amount of $17,225.46, and authorize the town manager or their designee to sign the appropriate paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Can you pass that back? Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Dean.
All right, my report. The roundabout project, there is an easement that we've been working on with PEA, and that is coming along. They have not asked for compensation for the easement, and we've been working very well with them, so we expect that we will have that done relatively soon, and I'll keep the board informed as to progress on it.
Okay, thank you.
Collective bargaining negotiations are continuing. We met with SEIU today. We met with the fire group today, and we had some good sessions, so those are continuing. Donna Bennett, our new deputy tax collector, started today. Today was her first day, so welcome, Donna. And I know I managed to catch her at the end of the day today, and she said it was very busy, so she hit the ground running. Then the new hours for the tax water sewer office beginning October 1st will mimic the town clerk. They'll be open until 7 o'clock on Tuesdays and then close at 12:30 p.m. on Fridays. So people should get used to that change. And again, that will start on October 1st, which is tomorrow. They'll be open till 7 o'clock tomorrow. Household hazardous waste day we talked about earlier. Director Cronin talked about that, so I won't repeat that. Budget Recommendations Committee meeting is Wednesday the 2nd at 6:30. And then the Assistant Town Manager and I went to ICMA last week in Pittsburgh and had a good conference, and it was well attended and had a good conference. So thank you to the board for supporting us and going.
Any other questions for Mr. Dean? Great. Select Board Committee reports. Selectwoman Belanger, please.
I had a Recreation Advisory Board Committee meeting on September 25th. Pool painting and pickleball lining is done. Pickleball lining, they did just a little to see how that goes. Fall soccer registration is open and going well. Please check with Parks and Rec website on the age group registration because they close at different dates. Planet Playground, a lot of discussion on what to purchase using available funds and what to fundraise for. The board has decided to use a recreation impact fees. There's currently $63,000. Greg mentioned he's expecting more, but for the sail shade, and they're going to start with just an entry one for the sail shade, and they're going to raise funds for a glider. So the glider right now is at $28,000. So that's, people be aware you're going to be looking to raise some funds for that. And so the October 23rd is the next Park Recreation Advisory Board meeting, and then they'll be voting on next steps, and Greg will be reaching out to our chair about when to come on the agenda, because it went anywhere from needing to happen before the end of the year to he could wait till January. So I told him he had to talk to you because you were in charge of the agenda. There was a discussion on the number of summer camp field trips and the costs associated with them, ways to possibly reduce costs or to offer more scholarships. There were 27 scholarships last year. Understand that camp is $158 a week. The field trips range anywhere from $15 to $50 or even higher. Right, and when they have them, there's no camp that week. So that was an interesting discussion. So we'll see. That's going to get picked back up when Caroline comes back. Due to Triple E concerns, all coaches and children are off the fields by 6:30, and anyone that's on the field is encouraged to wear long sleeve shirts and use bug spray. And this is an expected issue. This is expected to last until at least early November. So that's something for the public to be aware of. Planning board, I corrected the waste hazardous day, so there we go with that. Please, if anyone's considering committees or boards, the planning board has alternates all of our alternate, 4 alternate positions are vacant, and it would be really great, and you can reach out to me or any one of us to talk about the commitments to that, but hopefully people would consider joining the planning board. They meet on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month. So there was a lot line adjustment between 53 and 45 Water Street, the former Ioka building and the former location of the Travel and Nature Store. That was approved. There was a waiver for a perimeter buffer located on the Hampton Road, right near the town line, from 50 feet to 35 feet. And there was another application, the Wiley Creek application for a lot line adjustment, but they asked to be taken off the agenda and put on the November 21st agenda. And then there were 2 extensions for already approved projects. TF Moran at 8 Commerce Way was granted an extension to October 12th, 2025, and Exonian Properties located at 43 Front Street was granted an extension to May 26, 2026.
Thank you. It was a busy week.
Yes. I also did a do's and don'ts election engineering last Thursday. It's really informative, and I think I forwarded to all the...
Electioneering.
Thank you. And then the Powder Keg Festival, we talked about that. That's this week. Hope to see you there. I'll be checking people in.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you passing that along, that seminar that you, the webinar that you...
Yes, it was really,
Very-
about an hour and a half, but it was very informative.
It was.
Thank you.
Selectwoman Gilman.
Yes, I had, Heritage Commission met at 112 Front Street to look over a house and barn that are requesting a demolition, and applicants requesting a demolition. And then the next night, we had the full Heritage Commission discuss it and decided to hold an actual public hearing for the public to have input on this. It's we have 30 days to act on whether or not we recommend a demolition or decide that it's not a loss to the town's history or heritage. And we decided to go ahead, and the applicant is very eager to work with us, but we have a 30-day schedule that we have to meet, so we have to have this meeting, and it is tomorrow at 5:30 here in the room. So if you have any thoughts on 112 Front Street, please come along. And the next night, we had the HDC meeting, which is a record 2 minutes, I think. All we were doing was the same thing of extending an approval for the same project at 47 Front Street until the same time in May 2026, and that is it.
Thank you. Selectwoman Cowan?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Selectman Chartran.
I did meet in my capacity as a downtown business owner with the train station group that's been meeting. That meeting happened at the library on September 19th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We continue to try to figure out how we can provide more amenities for folks that are leaving the town on the train or coming into the town on the train. It's a good group, and we continue to meet. I also had a facilities advisory committee meeting scheduled for September 25th, but Chairman Mark Layton put that meeting off because he wants all the members to be there to discuss space needs assessment. So we're shooting to have a meeting sometime in October, and that's my report.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I had 3 meetings, the first of which was the site walk that we talked about with the Swasey Park trustees. The second was River Advisory Committee, met on the 19th. Paul Velasquez gave a Pickpocket Dam update, essentially saying that it was going to be on the CIP. Mr. Dean spoke of that earlier when he presented the budget. And then we had an extensive review of the Exeter Reservoir Dam feasibility study, which was brought on not by a letter of deficiency, but rather escalated as a result of the breach analysis of the Pickpocket Dam. ARPA funds had been available, and I believe that there was also a grant that paid for this. Our next step is we're going to, and I want to thank Terry Harmon, had a great idea to do a site walk. So we will be taking, we will not be meeting we'll be meeting, but not having a meeting. We'll have a site walk in October and then possibly meet in December for next steps. So keep you posted on that. And immediately after that, the Pearpoint Park Committee met and discussed some great work they had done since the last meeting to make some recommendations to the board moving forward with possible fencing and surveys and taking the next steps that I think the board had sort of hoped they would. And just as a motion was to be made, it got held for another discussion on another recommendation that may or may not be made to the board on October 15th, which was the date I told them they would be penciled in. So they are going to meet, they're going to add an extra meeting and meet next week and try to wrap up what exactly they're going to present to the board on the 15th. So more to come on that. And I think that's it for me. I'll be at the budget meeting Wednesday, and tomorrow night I have an opportunity to meet, and I don't have it written down, forgive me, but I'm meeting with a scout troop at St. Michael's to talk about democracy and local elections. So I'm excited for that. Thank you, Selectwoman Belanger, for...
I'll send you our voting in New Hampshire.
I'd like that.
Thank you for doing it.
Okay, correspondence. We have a monthly update from MRI. They had 346 appointments scheduled between August 26th and September 2nd. Of those, looks like 324 were residential and 22 were commercial. Mr. Dean, no statistics on the outcomes of those, or do we get that later?
We can get those. We can get those later, actually. Okay. Not quite yet ready to go.
Okay. We'll look forward to that. Xfinity is discontinuing the use of cable cards with Comcast issued equipment, effective later in October. And then a wonderful packet from Public Works on the transfer station and what's recyclable and what's compostable and HelpSee and batteries and.
When I was looking at the packet, I went on HelpSee on our website. It has 3 locations, but it doesn't have the one behind the high school, the old high school on Linden Street. Is there a reason for that? Or it just hasn't been added? Okay,
I'll look
so
into that.
there is one behind the former high school.
Okay.
It's right on the corner of the field when you start to drive around the back, so.
We can add that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reviewing the board calendar, October 15th is our next meeting. That's a Tuesday. And Mr. Dean, have you communicated with ZBA that we'll have the room?
We will do that.
Okay. I'd like to give them as much notice if we can.
Can I just, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Because conservation, was that Tuesday the 8th?
No, the 15th.
The 15th. Okay, never mind. I'm all set.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, Arts Committee, that might be that night. So can you just check for too many meetings in one night, please? Thank you. Sorry,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
That's okay. No, thank you for bringing that up. October 15th, October 28th, November 12th, which is a Tuesday as well, November 25th, December 9th, and December 23rd. Sound good?
And then Happy New Year.
Okay. Is there any other business from the board? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A, 32A and C.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectman Chartran.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Belanger.
Aye.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. The board will be moving into non-public. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.